Absolutely. Now, in terms of putting the numbers up, the government in Australia sets aside a proportional, taking of population numbers into account, of about 30% of the budget. Now, in talking to different ethnicities in terms of getting the message across, the present Labour government here in New Zealand doesn't do that. What will be your party's position if you come into power?
Well, I think what the Labour Party has done is any communications that are different, are Maori and no other sort of language. My view is that we've got substantial different ethnic groups in New Zealand. Many Chinese, many Indians, many from a variety of countries. If we want to get the message through to them, and we surely do, then we need to do a number of things. Firstly, communicate in their native language so that they can understand our message accurately. Also make sure that we get into different mediums, on different TV channels, on different newspapers, in a wide range of different ethnic medium forms. And I intend to do that in a great way. I mean, it's a pleasure to be here today. I've undertaken a lot of television and newspaper interviews with different ethnic groups since I've become the leader. Next week I've got a full range of different meetings across different Chinese outlets in terms of newspaper and radio and television. So look, it's critically important. You can't lead a country unless people can understand where you're taking them, and they won't understand where you're taking them unless you communicate with them in their language.
And I think that's quite important for our viewers because they do like someone that can speak the language of them.
Absolutely.
Now, just shifting the focus slightly, your take on MMP, is it something that you like?
Not overly, as a system at a personal level. I mean, one of the problems is that it gives a huge amount of power to very, very small groups. So, in a sense, the majority gets pushed around by the minority, if you like. Sometimes it causes compromises which aren't in New Zealand's best interests. The one benefit of MMP, I would say, is that it's brought a greater range of different people into our parliament. I mean, our parliament is the House of Representatives, and it should represent all New Zealanders. And we've got Pansy Wong, for instance, in our team. Labour brought in Ashraf Chowdhury. There are many others. So, in terms of increasing the representation, that's a good thing, but in terms of decision making, it can make us quite slow, and you see compromise deals where you have the kind of ridiculous situation that Winston Peters is the Minister of Foreign Affairs but not part of the Cabinet for theoretically one of the most important portfolios.
I'm Dick Hubbard, Mayor of Auckland, and you've been watching me on Darpan, a panorama of images on free-to-air Triangle TV. Keep watching.
Now, the Maori Party, there's always been a bit of a love-hate relationship between them and the National Party. Now, unlike Mr. Brash, what type of relationship are you intending to build with them?
Well, a respectful relationship. I made it clear when I became the leader that I intend to have a constructive and durable relationship with every party in Parliament. The facts of life are that under MMP it's extremely unlikely we'll be able to govern alone. We certainly want every New Zealander to give us their party vote, and we hope that in the next election they'll vote for National as their party vote. But in reality you end up doing deals under MMP, and I want to make sure that National's in a position where it can do a deal with a wide range of different parties, and that can include the Maori Party.
Now, do you see them now? It's quite interesting that you say that. Do you see them as being very pivotal in the next election?
I do. Look, the Maori seats have always historically been held by by Labour. The funny thing is, I would put a case up to you that National's done more for the Maori people in New Zealand than Labour has. We certainly drove the treaty settlement process. We did a lot in the early 90s to ensure that Maori got a chance to get control of their own assets. But nevertheless, the Maori seats have been held with Labour. There have been a few occasions when they've broken away, once when New Zealand first dominated them, and now the Maori Party having 4 of the 7, and I think there's a very good chance the Maori Party will win all 7 of the Maori seats in the next election. That means that Maori's voice can oscillate, if you like, and move between Labour and National. My sense is the Maori Party are very keen to potentially have some sort of arrangement with National, and we welcome the arrangement if that's the way the cards are dealt after the election.
Okay. Now, with regards to the foreshore and seabed, will your party support the Maori Party in the referendum?
We haven't had that discussion yet. We intend to do that in the new year. We voted against the Foreshore and Seabed Act when it came into Parliament for a number of reasons. I don't think the current position is as clear as the government would like you to believe. But I do think it's very important that all New Zealanders have access to the beaches, and that is an unequivocal right of all New Zealanders. So it's a very technical issue around whether Foreshore and Seabed, which is the wet bit included land when we went back right to the Treaty of Waitangi. But we'll work to have some constructive discussions with the Maori Party.
Yeah, you alluded to the Treaty of Waitangi. What about that process? I mean, in terms of national...
Well, I personally believe that the treaty is the founding document of New Zealand. It was really a development document where Pākehā and Maori came together and said, look, we can either fight each other and kill each other, or we can go forward and form a new country. And we did that in 1840. I think the treaty confers some pretty special rights on Maori, that made sure that everyone had equal standard of citizenship, and in return we agreed as a nation to preserve their rights around forestry and fishing and land, and also around their culture and their language.
Yeah, why I allude to this is because the Maori Party have said that the time that's been given to this process has been considered quite short by them. And I mean, if that's their current concern right now, I mean, what does National intend to do about that?
Well, in terms of the settlement process, I would argue with you that taking a long time to resolve that is not necessarily in the best interest of Maori, and the reason for that is that as a result of the settlement process, land and assets which are currently locked up by the Crown, but everyone acknowledges are truly Maori's, derive no benefit for the Maori population. We've seen in the case, for instance, of Ngāi Tahu in the South Island, where they got control of their assets. They've done amazing things for Maori, achieving things for Maori. So I'm quite keen for the settlement process to take place reasonably quickly. That's a combination of different things. It's about funding the Office of Treaty Settlements appropriately. It's coming to that process with the right people, and ensuring that we can get durable settlements. No one wants to rush through things that don't last, but on the other side of the coin, asking Maori to wait 30 years for their assets when they can get them tomorrow doesn't seem to be in their best interest, in my view.
Now, just a quick yes or no. I know I've touched on this before by saying, will they be pivotal? Will they be a partner for the National Party in the next election?
Well, I can't say yes or no because I don't really know what the electorate deals up to them. They may deselect them as a party, but what I can say is that we want National to have as many party votes as we can. Post the election, we definitely want to have a look at what options are available, but we're certainly not ruling them out, and they're certainly not ruling themselves out of being in some sort of arrangement with National.
Okay. Now, just shifting the focus of the interview now, the question relates to this. Now, why does New Zealand have different strokes for different folks? Now, my example being is that an Israeli general came to New Zealand, and now a warrant was issued for his arrest. Now, this was quashed by Attorney General Michael Cullen.
Yes.
Now, I mean, what's your take on this? Isn't it a paradox, in relation to someone like Ahmed Zawi, who has been confined for a couple of years, and there's no shred of evidence to keep him there? Now, I mean, isn't it a paradox? I mean, what's your take on this?
Well, I think there's always a different outcome, and there are anomalies in any kind of system. Without getting into individual cases, I mean, the reality of life is that not all things pan out exactly the same way. It depends on circumstances. I have a general policy that I don't comment on individual cases, and there's two reasons for that. The first is that I'm on the SIS committee, so I get briefed with the Prime Minister as part of the Act of Parliament on the individual details behind those cases. So there are conflicts of interest issues for me, and secondly, often they're a ruling from the court, which I also try not to comment on if I can avoid it. At the moment, I haven't been briefed on any of those three, and so part of my reluctance is that I'm simply working off reports in the media. If you take Ahmed Zawi, for instance, there's a lot of information in the public domain, but I'm not quite sure whether it's accurate or not. So I kind of rather leave it in a position where I say I won't comment on those things. But we want people to be treated fairly and as best we possibly can. If there can be some consistency, then it's very important. I mean, I see it in immigration cases I deal all the time with in my electorate. I've been very successful in advocating for some people to come to New Zealand or for family reunification, helping some people. I know a lovely girl who was dying and being sent back to Fiji, who I saved, where the government was going to send her back, and we managed to get her dialysis treatment and a kidney transplant in New Zealand. But equally, there are many cases where people aren't treated equally, so that does concern us.